Alright guys, I don't have a pre-made press. What I use is just 2 sheets of 12 by 12 plywood with the foam that I get from knifekits.com. This is $10 a square, so it's $20 to make a press. And what I like to use is just C-clamps. This allows me to put more pressure where I need to. It also is cheap. I can get these C-clamps for $5-6 a piece. Plywood's cheap, and when it's done I throw it away. It also allows me to do multiple, I've got I think 3 or 4 of these presses, so I can press one, because I typically do a lot of sheets at a time, so I'll do one, press it, put the timer on it, throw it to the side, start another one, press it, put it to the side, and then put another timer on it, get back to it. But this has been the cheapest way I've found. I am looking into a hydraulic, like a machine shop press. That way I can take these sandwiches, whatever you want to call them, set it right in the press and just crank it down instead of using the clamps to be a little quicker. But so that's something else I'm looking into. But just C-clamps, so you could get into it for plywood you can find laying around pretty cheap. $20 for the foam and say $5 a clamp. So $35 or so, $30-40 to get your press, which isn't too bad. So that's my press there. And then when you're pressing, get this stuff out of the way here. Sorry, like I said, I'm using a different camera. This doesn't have a tripod for it. When you're pressing, after you've pressed your knife and it's been in the oven, you put in. I like to keep. You can see this is kind of wider here. I try to keep this similar knife. Like this one, I'll press this side, and I got one for holsters. That allows all the press to kind of stay in one spot. If I were to cross, like say I switch it to this side, you would see these lines in your KYDEX. So you really want to keep as close to possible. Shift it around every once in a while. Maybe have 2. This is a pretty new set of foam, but you want to kind of keep it the same. Like I said, if you start, this is one of my old ones. Once it gets worn out, you see all these little dimples from the knives and stuff. If I were to lay my KYDEX across here and press it, I would see that dimple. It would all show up in the sheath, and you'd have little bumps out here, and it wouldn't be level. So something to watch for is really keep that consistent and watch your foam. I get about 150 knives out of a set of foam or presses. I only keep it in for 10 minutes. That helps it from keeping a set. Like I said, this one's done about 150 knives so far. This is my second set of foam here. Like I said, this is new stuff. So yeah, just take care of it. 10 minutes. There is a side to it. You can see it's a little different. This side has a coating on it, and that's the side you want towards the heat. If you start pressing on this back side, it really takes a set quick. I don't know what this finish is on the front, but it helps. Other presses. When you're pressing, you'll always want to keep some blocks of wood. I keep these for, this one's got a 45 on it for getting into corners. I use that for my belt loop bend. Just random blocks of wood really helps for pressing if you have to. Not necessarily the main body of the sheath, but if you're going to get into like fire steels and when you get into your holsters, for bending your loops. For bending my loops, I use I've got a jig made up with marks for different belt loop sizes, and I just stick it in. Sorry, getting to be a mess here. You stick it in, heat it up, bend it over, and then use your blocks of wood to press it. So that's, if you start doing this, you'll start making jigs and other things just to help things go along. So kind of with pressing there. And we'll show you a couple other little presses. Alright, this is another press that I use. I make all my own fire steel loops. I even put the handles and shock cord on the fire steels. I buy the fire steels in bulk, a couple hundred at a time. This is just I think it's kind of a woodworker's press. But for making my KYDEX loops, I'll heat up the KYDEX, put it in there, and just simple, press it down. I use taped fire steel loop for that would go in there first, but a 1/4 inch and 5/16. But that's a handy little press. Otherwise, you sit here putting all your weight on, those blocks of wood, you hold it down and try to get it all right. This just, you put it in there, clamp it down, put it to the side, and go to your next thing. You can keep efficient that way. You also get a nicer product. It presses it nicer, there's less slip in it. So that helps out a lot. So that's another press. You could do something like this with your big press. You could set up a station and have these just clamp down on it, and then you'd be just clamp them down and put pressure on. I think this is a 500-pound pressure press. They make 250 and some bigger ones too, but you could do it that way if you wanted. That wouldn't be too bad. So a couple options for you. How to press your KYDEX. Alright guys, next up would be your layout. Once you get it out of the press, you want to decide how wide you want it, what you want. I try to keep my holes at 1.5 inch spacing for the most part. That way it'll fit tech locks and other stuff like that. So a big part is take your time, get your hole layout. Once it's out of the press, it'll say look like this. Measure, mark, kind of figure out what it's going to look like. And then same with your holsters, figure out how high you want this sitting on your belt. That determines where you start drilling your holes for your belt loops. So really get your layout figured out. Once you have all that laid out, mark your holes, and then we'll go to the drill press. That'll be your next step here. Drill all your holes where you want them. Use a 1/4 inch bit. You see, just a block of wood, something to punch it through. It's not pretty self-explanatory. Don't drill them. Give them time to cool. If you drill stuff hot, it kind of just melts off and doesn't turn out as nice. I just use a drill press. You could use a cordless drill. That would be another good option for the guy who doesn't have a big shop set up. Just try to make sure your layout is nice and straight. Your holes are all centered, so you get a nice straight line, a nice looking product. So everything lines up straight there. Alright, and then once you have all the holes drilled, there's sometimes you will have to do prep work. On some of my sheaths, like once the holes are drilled, I will actually cut the top separate, buff all that so I get I can buff along this whole edge without it interfering with the backside. And then I will go and rivet it all together. Same with some of the gun holsters. There's some stuff you have to do before you rivet it. On my, I don't have it down here, on my pocket holster, there's a little tab that covers the barrel. I've got to finish all that before I can do a lot of the other stuff. So, alright, we'll go to riveting.